I was tagged by Alex, known on YouTube as FGAlexPX, in the scary tag game, which is quite like the other tag game that went around, except that you have to make a scary video and tag only 3 people. And I've actually been looking for an excuse to talk about one of my favourite authors who writes horror books for a while, so this will give me a chance to do that. I don't generally read horror fiction. Some people probably classify Edgar Allan Poe as horror, but I find his work, it doesn't scare you in a sense, even though it can be about quite horrifying circumstances. I just sort of enjoy the language he uses and the way he can so wonderfully capture sort of human insanity most of the time. Anyway, he's not the author I was speaking of. The one author who can scare me so much that sometimes I must put the book down is H.P Lovecraft, who is in a way a successor to Edgar Allan Poe, and he writes brilliant short stories. The reason they're terrifying is that it's often what he doesn't say that's most nerve-wracking, scary. He has a great way of leaving the unknown in his books so that your vivid imagination fills it in, and that's always much scarier than if they describe everything. To give you an example of his subtlety, he'll in my favourite story one of my favourite stories of his, called The Dreams in the Witch House, it's about a man living in this room of a mansion or house, and he notices how all the walls and the ceiling are on a certain angle that it doesn't quite match the outside of their building, and therefore there must be this strange slanted space in one upper corner of the room, and he begins to wonder what is in that space and who used to live in this room, and why won't the landlord let him have a look in the ceiling and see what's going on in that space. And just subtle things like that. I mean, just a curve in the wall and a slanting ceiling, and he can make it terrifying. So for my scary tag video, I'm going to read an excerpt from that same story about a sort of rat-like creature who features quite prominently in the book and stays with you for a while after reading it. So I recommend him to everyone as an author. He can be quite lengthy in his descriptions, and it can take a while to get into the story, but once you reach a certain point of the story, you'll be hooked to the end and quite terrified. Okay, and as for tagging 3 other people, I was thinking who should I tag, and then I was thinking maybe I'll roll a dice and choose random 3 people out of my subscribers, but I've decided instead to let anyone who wants to respond to this video, whether they want to share a scary story or speak about one of their authors or read anything of their own, or otherwise, it's too hard to choose who to tag. So I'm getting out of it like that. Okay, enjoy the story. That object, no larger than a good-sized rat, and quaintly called by the townspeople Brown Jenkin, seemed to have been the fruit of a remarkable case of sympathetic herd delusion. For in 1692, no less than 11 persons had testified to glimpsing it. There were recent rumours, too, with a baffling and disconcerting amount of agreement. Witnesses said it had long hair and the shape of a rat, but that its sharp-toothed, bearded face was evilly human, while its paws were like tiny human hands. It took messages betwixt old witch Keziah and the devil, and was nursed on the witch's blood, which it sucked like a vampire. Its voice was a kind of loathsome titter, and it could speak all languages. Of all the bizarre monstrosities in Gilman's dreams, nothing filled him with greater panic and nausea than this blasphemous and diminutive hybrid, whose image flitted across his vision in the form of 1,000-fold things more hateful than anything his waking mind had deduced from the ancient records and the modern whispers.